Hi, everybody. It's Dr. Wendy Walsh. Let me get Instagram going too. Welcome to my live stream. Instagram is checking connection. Oh, thank you. Thank you for the nice comment coming in already from Wolfgang. Thank you for saying that you like my work. I really appreciate it. I don't know how many people are going to be around on a Sunday afternoon on a beautiful Memorial Day weekend, but I know that not everybody is watching from America and not everybody is watching at 4 p.m. So let me know where you're watching from. That's always the fun part, right? Let me know where you're watching my live stream from and what time it is for you. I know some people in the Philippines have said it's like 8 a.m. or something for them. Akshay, it is not Wednesday today. I know it's confusing, isn't it? So here's what's happening so everybody can understand. This is my normal time, 4 o'clock every Sunday afternoon for the Dr. Wendy Walsh Show on KFI AM 640 Los Angeles. However, today they are airing a very important, impactful news special about Asian hate crimes. And so I thought, instead of just sitting in a lounge chair by a pool, sipping on a margarita, which I would like to be doing, by the way, I should still give my people a bit of me. So I decided that I'm going to do the hello from Munich, Germany. How are you? From Fort Drum, New York. Nice to see you. Hey, New York City. Hi, hi, hi. Where are you guys watching from over here on Facebook and YouTube and Twitter? I think the comments should populate here. I know my Akshay's in Ottawa. Good to see you again. San Jose, nice to see you. New England, pouring rain on a holiday weekend. Sorry to hear. But glad you're here with me because I have actually printed out lots and lots of questions. So not only will you guys have questions for me, but I've got some questions to answer. Hi in Canada. Where in Canada? It's a big old country. I'm from there. I lived in a lot of provinces there. Hi, Illinois. How are you, Alan? Good to see you. Hello, a balanced diet from Toronto. Is your diet balanced? Oh, hi from the Netherlands. Nice to see you. What time is it in the Netherlands right now? The middle of the night, no? Early morning? It's dark wherever you are. It's sunny here in California. Hello, Michigan. Nice to see you in Michigan. Oh, Catherine, you're in Nova Scotia. I was born in the Halifax Infirmary, eh? Wouldn't you know? That's where I'm from originally, but you know, I've lived many places. Okay, let us get going. Hi from Dubai. Nice to see you. I got coffee. That's all it is. No, you know, sometimes for my live stream, they're a little later at night. I have a little tequila before dinner. I'm Mary from Temecula. But coffee today because I want to stay awake for you. The first thing I want to do is talk about one of my TikTok videos that has gone viral. I think it's close to 3 million views right now. And in it, I'm answering a viewer's question who asked me what I believe the psychology behind homophobia is. And I explain that we are all wired on some level to be bisexual. And what I mean by that is that in our evolutionary past, we were both cooperative breeders, meaning that it always took a village, including gay brothers and sisters, to raise children, and being connected with each other, grooming each other, giving each other affection. All of that is connected with survival for us, right? All the feel-good hormones of dopamine and cortisol gets lowered, dopamine raises, oxytocin, it's all good. And so depending on environmental circumstances, there may be environmental pressures to behave in a more heterosexual way when you need to increase the population, to behave in a more homosexual way, and everything in between. And I think Kinsey's work was very clear that most of us lie on a scale of 1 to 6, being either 100% homosexual, both in behavior and fantasy, or 100% heterosexual in behavior and fantasy. But the truth is most humans lie somewhere on the scale. Now, I said that, and I hurt some people's feelings because there are still places in this country and the world where people who self-identify as gay have fought so hard to get their rights, fought so hard to not be discriminated against, fought so hard to like themselves in a culture that may say that there's something wrong with them when clearly there isn't. And so when I say we are wired, that's the key word, to have the capacity for bisexuality, this is very different from saying sexuality is a choice, right? Because most of what we do is unconscious anyway. So I want to be very clear, and I also want to apologize to anybody out there who was offended by my terminology. I want to be very clear that you are who you are, and it is okay. you are perfect. It doesn't matter if you practice same-sex behavior, bisexual behavior, if you're gay, if trans, however you self-identify, and also how you behave. You are perfectly lovable and you deserve to be loved. This I want to make clear. There's so many right ways to be a human being. And even when I talk about heteronormative, but I don't actually think that's normative necessarily, heterosexual relationships. You know, there's so many ways to have a heterosexual relationship. There's so many ways to talk about sexual boundaries, sexual consent. There are so many ways to have attachments when emotions get involved. So I want you to know there's no one right way. You're all okay. However, how do we as psychologists describe something as dysfunctional? It's only dysfunctional if it's impacting your ability to connect with others, your relationships, your social relationships, your ability to earn a living and survive, right? Nothing is considered a diagnosis or dysfunctional unless it's dysfunctional to you, right? So I just want to clear that all up before we get going. Edwin asks, I can click on some of the comments over here. How can I have a better relationship with myself and love myself more? You know, Edwin, that's the most important thing, isn't it? And when we talk about loving ourselves, that's very different than sort of that false kind of boasting and self-love. It's really a sense of inner self-confidence and knowing that you're good enough. Sadly, all babies and children come into the world with that feeling, but then they get talked out of it by critical parents, punitive teachers, bad coaches, and or bullies on the playing field or the schoolyard. And so we need to erase those critical voices in our heads. And there's actually a technique psychologists use called thought stop. And that is simply stopping the negative thoughts. Well, step one, of course, becoming aware of the negative thoughts. So when you have a negative thought creep in your head, like I'm not good enough, or I probably won't get that job, or that person won't go out with me, why should I bother? I want you to stop, pay attention to the fact that you had that thought, have another canned response, another thought, and replace it and repeat it in your head a minimum of 3 times. So the thought comes in that says, oh, if I call that person, they won't go out with me. And then you're going to replace it right away with, I am lovable, or I deserve love. I am lovable. And say it over and over. You can literally rewire your brain and your thinking. Mrs. Shaw says, folks are always finding something to be offended by. And it's truth, because we communicate through words, and through this computer, you guys can't know my heart or my intentions. I try as best I can to translate it using words, but one word to somebody means something different to another. So Mrs. Shaw, when I say we are wired to be bisexual, they hear, oh, I'm not wired to be, I'm wired to be gay, or I'm wired to be straight. Okay, that's who you are in this lifetime. But if you were stuck on a planet, what did Jessica say? Listen to the Precocious puberty episode today. My nephew went through it a couple of years ago at 9 years old. Wow, thank you for listening to it. I know, it's shocking that there are these and we're talking about my podcast, Mating Matters, by the way. There is an episode called Precocious Puberty. And I can't remember the exact statistic, but I think it's something like 10% of American girls are getting their periods before the age of 9, something huge. And no one's talking about this and what all the factors are and how it affects them socially and emotionally, because their brains are still babies, right? Sydney says, okay, the other question, let's go to Instagram first. So Instagram asked how to get out of the friend zone. Well, you put yourself in the friend zone, you know, right? You're being nice and kind and weren't exhibiting sexual interest and didn't walk away when you didn't get the reciprocity. That's the key word. Whenever you're courting somebody or somebody's courting you, you always should be looking for reciprocity. You do something nice, they're going to do something nice back. But if you're doing something nice and nice and nice and nice and hoping that this person will suddenly turn around and say, I am so sexually aroused by you because you're just so kind, it doesn't work that way. You have to look for the reciprocity. And if it doesn't come, you have to walk away. You can't be giving to somebody who's not giving you back. Okay, Sydney over here says, how can I tell if someone likes me? Is there anything people do when they like somebody? Actually, there is. It's holding eye contact slightly longer. And females tend to look and then quickly dash away. Hold just like, when I say slightly longer, I mean 2 seconds. And do you know how long 2 seconds is? Watch, it's creepy. 1 Mississippi, 2 Mississippi. Nobody looks at each other that long unless they really like each other, right? So look for that. And also if they're doing nice things for you, then of course. Okay, what about, oh, Mrs. Shaw says her daughter also, I think my daughter was 9 too. Higher in African-American populations. And sadly, it is one of the many tragedies of a kind of terrible, horrific, manipulated breeding that happened in our country years ago, as people were needed to get up early and have babies, and it's heartbreaking. Thank you, Roller Girl, for saying you like my hair. I'm really upset with my hair today. I can't get it to go down. You know, I have naturally curly hair, like corkscrew curls, and I'm fighting always with the blow dryer. And so this time I thought, well, I won't use the flat iron. I'll just blow dry. But I got it some, but I couldn't. I'm sorry. Hi, Sherry from St. Petersburg. Nice to see you. Okay, let me go to my other questions here while I'm looking for questions there. Does my producer friend see anything that I've missed too? Thank you, Miss Kitty, for the love and blessings to my family. You can't get someone to like you just by looking in the eyes. That's dumb. Well, no, you can't get them to look. If you're trying to figure out if they're interested in you, you pay attention that they're staring at you a lot. What do I think about arranged marriages in Asian cultures? Well, here's what I know about the statistics, that arranged marriages have a much lower divorce rate than romantic marriages. Partly because there are 6 people in every marriage, right? There are 2 sets of parents. There are lots of people to go through support. One of the flaws we have in our culture based on romantic marriages is that we expect our partner to be the entire village. We expect our partner to be our emotional support, our companion, our intellectual support, a financial exchange of love, right? So anyway, the answer is arranged marriages tend to last longer. And I think the biggest question for people is, if I have become acculturated to be more westernized, whatever word you want to use, more liberal, more modern, how do I tell my family I'd like to choose my romantic partner? And that's usually kind of the identity crisis that's going on. It's not that one kind of marriage is better than the other. It's about, how do you fit in to that model of marriage? Yes, you found me, Kelly. Nice to see you. Akshay. Okay, Akshay has actually a very good question. He says, you always have good questions, Akshay. Thank you. You say sperm chases egg, but you also say you should slow down with ladies and have boundaries. What's the balance? Well, that's my advice to you, Akshay, because I know you, and I know that you tend towards having a little bit of an anxious attachment style. So your version of slowing down and going super, super slow at a snail's pace is everybody else's version of normal. Okay. So you need to just chill, take a breath, be calm. Don't smother somebody with affection. Thank you, Ilona Karina. Love my content. I'm an inspiration. Wow. That was nice to hear. My kids don't say that. They go, can I borrow your car? I'm out of here. Okay. Any more questions before I move to my thing? Yes, you should go 50 miles an hour in 50 kilometers an hour in 100 kilometer zone. Okay, here's some of the questions that came in earlier. I've been married twice and had a pretty serious ex-girlfriend. My girlfriend and I broke up 8 months ago, and I feel like I've never met anyone like her again. I've been going through a dry spell meeting women, and it makes me feel down. What's wrong with me? There's absolutely nothing wrong with you. You should know that. The mating game is sometimes a game of endurance. And it's sometimes a game of waiting, going on those apps, taking a break when it becomes too much and you're feeling too down and too rejected, and then getting back up that horse and riding it again, okay? So there's nothing wrong with you. If you've had good, solid, healthy relationships in your past, you can expect to have a good, healthy relationship in your future. Hot Sauce says, I'm single and open to dating for a committed relationship and normally don't date through apps, more into meeting people and connecting naturally. Suggestion on my next steps. Okay, this is the hard part, right? Because you want to meet people in the real world But now we can't do it in workplaces because that's sexual harassment. And you can look like a creeper in the grocery store or the Starbucks. So my answer to you is be very cautious in the real world when approaching somebody, but always look for commonality, right? So you're going to say something that's going to help them in their day. So you might meet them at the dog park and you'll ask them about the breed of the dog, or, ask them for advice. You're in line at Starbucks and they're just staring at your phone. You're going to say, hey, is that Candy Crush? I'm really into that too, or whatever. You notice, of course, if they're swiping on Tinder, you don't comment about that. Okay, joke, don't. I was on the freeway one time. I am not joking. I was driving 60 miles an hour. It was bumper to bumper traffic. There was a motorcycle beside me, just going neck and neck with me, slightly forward. And I was looking over, and the guy driving the motorcycle was swiping Tinder with one hand while he was driving 60 miles an hour on the freeway. Gentlemen, please calm down. I know sperm chases egg, but that's a little fast. Actually, that's way too fast, okay? Just to let you know. Tips for disorganized attachment style. Anybody who has a secure attachment style, and I am the walking proof of this, should go into professional counseling with a therapist who understands about attachment, because it is the consistency of that relationship, the therapeutic relationship, that can be healing. I missed that question. Would you see the one on Instagram, something about a boyfriend going out of town? They go by so fast.
My boyfriend told me that he doesn't want to make me unhappy or doesn't want me to wait because he will be working out of town. Another long distance relationship. A long distance relationship.
He's basically saying, don't wait for me. I don't want you to be unhappy. Here's what this means. He's breaking up with you. I'm sorry. I have a warm voice, but I tell you the stone cold truth. Any guy who wants to keep his mate does not say that. What he's saying, he doesn't care about your feelings. He cares about his feelings right now, which are, great, I'm working out of town. This is a great way to slowly extricate myself from this relationship. I'm sorry, don't mean to break your heart, but you need to move on from this guy completely. I don't know if it's the same person. How do I respond? Yeah, okay, so now just move on. Go, okay, cool. If I'm not fine enough for you to wait for me, and I won't suffer without you. I'm out of here. Okay. Sydney asks, what do you think about antidepressants? I will tell you this. For the most part in our culture, psychopharmaceuticals have been overprescribed, especially with children, when parents just don't have the time to parent their children, right? On the other hand, and also it has been said that 1/3 of women in their childbearing years are on an antidepressant. So are we medicating womanhood? Are we trying to make women fit into a male model of life? And however, having said that, the modern psychopharmaceuticals are so subtle. They are so selective when it comes to various neurotransmitters that they're tweaking, and they can literally save lives, So if you have been prescribed, I would say stay on it because you need it. I used an antidepressant 2 times, both with postpartum depression. Both times I used them for 1 year. Then I took like 6 months to slowly wean off because it's very hard. You should never stop any psychopharm abruptly, please. They were life-saving. Nothing worse than a depressed mother for a newborn while their brain is developing. So that's my opinion on that.
Lucy Chen asks, is it true that some people can't be happily single?
Is it true that some people cannot be happily single? Yeah. Because we're wired to bond, and it's actually more the default to want to be in a relationship. I would like to flip that question around and say, is it possible to be happily single? Yes, because you can create a village around you of all kinds of people who will support you and love you, and there'll be bits and pieces of a relationship, right? And that amounts to support, social support. But yeah, most people like to couple up. That's what we're wired to do. We're wired to reproduce. My guy friend's mom is dying, I'm sorry, from ALS, and he flies home often. Said he wants to be exclusive in Boston, but non-monogamous when he's traveling. I'm sorry, Hannah. This is the kind of high supply sexual economy that's giving men a whole bunch of power right now. You need to say, screw you, dude, I'm out of here. It's the women with boundaries who get the guys to commit, and just negotiate it. How do I attract the men that I want? I've never been in a serious relationship. Oh, and I'm 30. All the men who find me are men who are needy and not accomplished. Well, let's stop first of all and tear apart this word needy. We're all supposed to be needy. We are all supposed to have emotional needs and be able to express them to a partner. That's the first thing. But when you say not accomplished, so here's the thing. We are right now experiencing an oversupply of successful women, which means there are fewer mates available. Now, it's not to say that fewer male babies are being born. It is that we have entered the information age, past the industrial age now, and women are more uniquely suited to extract resources from the environment. We're better talkers, texters, typers. We have more social sensitivity. We're very good at marketing. So for the first time in history, there are actually more women in the American workforce than men. We certainly have seen the feminization of college campuses in the last few decades, where the college I teach at is like 70% women, right? So what does this mean for women and mates? When women acquire education and a paycheck, then they want a mate who has more than them, because they've also ingested the ideals of patriarchy and the Cinderella complex that says, I want a guy who's still going to support me. And so what that means is there are fewer mates around. So my answer is you might want to, ladies, reevaluate what your idea of a power man is, because it might be the kind of guy who can power a stroller. And also really get to know his mother really well, because when you're lying there with bleeding nipples after a cesarean section, his mother will be way more important to you than him. Trust me, just saying. Okay. My 23-year-old daughter got lied to by a married man a year and a half ago, and she's been depressed. Should you encourage her to date again? Absolutely. She needs to get back on that horse, ride it, find out that there are good, loving people out there who won't lie to you. Okay, this, Sydney, is the hot button question of our culture right now. Is it racist to have a racial dating preference? Now, I've had very vocal arguments with my daughter. And if you've been watching my show for a long time, you know that my children are biracial, African-American, and me, I'm Irish Canadian. My older daughter self-identifies Black. My younger daughter self-identifies unique. But they believe it is racist. I believe that your sexual arousal system is created by a series of triggers that happen in early life. And the reason why my children are dark-skinned is because when I was in elementary school, I went to a school that was predominantly Black. And during my formative years, all my closest friends and crushes were Black. I have a little voice in my head that whenever I see a person of color, I think beautiful, just beautiful. And so as a result, that is now, here's what we do know about our sexual orientation, or not orientation when I'm talking about gender, but when it comes to whatever, hair color, eye color, whatever. We cannot change our orientation, but we can add to the menu, right? So my current boyfriend, who's sitting right there off camera, is a mishmash of everything in the globe, but he presents white. But I know he's got a little soul in him, I would just say. I can see it. So is it? Depends who you're asking, really. And Akshay says, maybe that's why I love white women. Did you go to school with a lot of white girls when you were growing up, Akshay? I bet you did. Okay, should I go back to my paper? Do we have any more questions? Okay, here's a common question I get. Simple. How do I handle a broken heart? It's as simple as this. Make sure you surround yourself by people who love you, whether it's friends, colleagues, your sister's kids. The way that we get strong again to go back and find another mate is by finding that self-love. And we can do it by taking care of ourselves, exercise, eating well, sleeping well, and also just surrounding yourself, making all kinds of social arrangements with people who love you unconditionally, and that'll bring it back. Lucy says, but my daughter is attracted to toxic men. What do I do? You get her into therapy, because that's an attachment disorder. If she has pain that's comorbid with love, that needs to be changed, right? That idea. Okay, let me go to another one. Is it okay that my boyfriend never buys me flowers or gifts? So this listener says, is it okay that my boyfriend never buys me flowers or gifts? And my big answer for that is, depends. What else does he do for you? We're always doing a cost-benefit analysis with our relationships. And I know you think it's cold, and I know you think, oh, but love will conquer all. No, not if he's sitting on your sofa with no income, eating food out of your fridge and watching TV. No, love's not going to conquer that. Right? So we do this cost-benefit analysis all the time. So guess what? You might not have the guy. I never knew my dad, for instance, to ever give my mother flowers ever in her life, but he was always building something for her. He was always fixing something. They were definitely a partner when it came to cooking dinners and cleaning up afterwards. They were best friends. So he didn't do traditional romantic things, but she had a best friend. Oh my gosh, Miss Kitty, I'm so sorry. My husband took his life and I feel like I'm cheating on him. We were both high school sweethearts. First of all, my deepest condolences. I'm so sorry about your loss, Miss Kitty. You know, there are not many words that I can say to you except that time will heal. And I would suggest going to some grief counseling because the stages of grief are important that you work through them. Heartbreaking. Oh, Sydney's got all the good questions today. Look at that. How long should I date someone before I have sex with them? Well, you shouldn't have sex with anybody unless you trust them. Think of it this way, ladies. Would you give the keys to your apartment to a guy you just met to water your plants while you're out of town? No? Oh, but you'd expose your bloodstream and your eggs to him on a first date? That's fascinating. Okay. And you could do 20 years of parenthood at least. All right. Think about it. Sex is a much higher risk hobby for women than it is for men. Whether you like it or not, ladies, because of our unique biology, we are more likely to contract an STI. We are more likely to fall in love with somebody we don't mean to. We are more likely to contract an 18-year case of parenthood. And so we must be the choosy ones. And it's hard when we're in a high supply sexual economy and men are holding the cards sexually because there's a lot of pressure on women. But guess who they finally can commit to? The women with boundaries. The women who say, that doesn't work for me. Moving on, right? Okay, let's go back to the paper.
You see that there's a question.
What's the question?
It says, my boyfriend of 5 years now says he's straight, that he did love me. What do you think he could be?
So I assume when you say my boyfriend, this is a man, right?
Yeah.
Okay. And so, so he's probably somewhere on the Kinsey scale is what it is. You know, when we put people in these boxes, life gets hard, right? Now, you may feel deep in your core 100% homosexual in fantasy and behavior, and they would call you a Kinsey 6, right? He may be somewhere else along the scale. And there's all these, you know, cultural pressure to be one thing or another too. I just think he's a human and he's figuring out himself. It's not like we flip and just go from one box into another. It's really just a long scale that we're all on. And anyway, I'm sorry. It sounds like there's some feelings of loss around that. So sorry you're experiencing that. Okay. What is the secret for happy, long-lasting relationships? Well, if I knew that, first of all, let's stop and consider the goal of a relationship. Is it to stay together until death do us part? Plenty of people have done that, and we refer to their relationships as being successful relationships. However, plenty of people have lived very long, unhappy lives together as well, all because somebody outside said that's a successful relationship. We even know that people who have an anxious attachment style are very attracted to people who are emotionally avoidant, and they live in pain and longing, and they tend to stay together the longest of all the groups. So there's no one right way to love. But I'm a big believer that emotional intimacy is the glue that helps relationships last longer. Yes, and no more, Dr. Wendy. That's not true. Just this week and next week, we're going to be here live instead. And so good communication skills, and it starts with you being aware of your own feelings and being able to express them in a non-threatening way. And then when your partner expresses their feelings, not shaming them, but instead acknowledging their feelings and mirroring back to them their feelings in a way that is understood. So what's an example of this? Let's say your partner says, I don't really want to do that. It makes me uncomfortable. Then you're going to say, tell me more about that. I understand you're feeling uncomfortable with this. What's really going on, right? And so you're just going to inquire gently and then say, oh yeah, you know what? When you do that, I feel kind of that too. And here's the other big, amazing news. Did you know that every conflict you have in a relationship, you don't have to come to a solution to? You just have to express your feelings. The other person needs to acknowledge it and mirror back and then tell you how your feelings impacted them. And then you mirror back to them what they express. And then you say, okay, do you want to go get brunch now? That's all that has to happen. There doesn't have to be a winner, a loser, or anything. Everyone successful may not be the same as your definition. Well, again, I don't have a definition. That's my point. If two people are happy and there's not a lot of pain and longing, then there's no dysfunction, right? I can tell you what is a toxic relationship. A toxic relationship is a nest that's dangerous for children emotionally or physically. It's a relationship where there's such chronic cheating that they're never get to the repair stage and grow intimacy back. It's a relationship where there is drug or alcohol abuse. It's a relationship where there is violence. All that are toxic relationships. And no way, even if they last forever and ever, should they ever be called successful relationships. Have I seen Grey's Anatomy? No, I do. My daughter watches it. I don't. Okay.
Here's a question. A friend mentioned that a guy she's dating asked to tone down the texting since he couldn't keep up. He was going through some family stuff. What's up with that?
Okay. Boyfriend says to girlfriend, tone down the texting. It's too much. What he was really saying is, this relationship is too much too soon for me. And this, I suspect, is one of those classic cases where you're going to get this anxious person who's texting like crazy, and then somebody who's kind of avoidant, who's feeling really overwhelmed by it. So the answer is, when somebody gives you guidelines of how they want to be treated, pay attention to them, right? He may not be breaking up with her. He just really needs her to chill a little bit. I'm trying to see if I missed any over here in the comments. Okay. I love this one. Why does swinging still exist? Well, so there's two things. There's always a conflict between the sexes, right? And the conflict revolves around this. All genders want to invest in as little as possible in offspring. So for men, it's about getting their seed in as many mates as possible. For women, it's about getting rich men who will hire other women to help them with theirs, right? That's really the bottom line. It's just about who can give less to kids. And so when swingers exist, it's about seed spreading when often men have control, right? And it's only a very small percentage of the human population that can suppress their sexual jealousy enough to have a polyamorous relationship, okay? The rest of us, we're playing with fire because we have this thing called jealousy that we shouldn't be opening that Pandora's box. Thank you for your nice comments.
Here's another communication one. I don't like to be in constant contact with my girlfriend, but she gets annoyed when I don't have time for her because of work and studies. How can I help the situation?
Yeah, so this is a question from an avoidant person saying, I don't like to be in constant contact with my girlfriend, but she gets annoyed when I'm not. Well, you need to listen to her. First of all, she's telling you her needs. I'm sorry she's getting annoyed. She should simply, you should find ways to hear her. And you guys are going to have to come to a compromise. So you can work out things like, okay, so how often would you like to be in contact? Is it once a day? Is it twice a day? 20 times a day is way too much. I know that most relationships seem to connect at least once a day, even when they're at work or traveling, but that may not be for everybody, right? So you got to talk about it. And if she's upset, then her needs are real. So let's talk about her needs. Right?
Here's another one about culture. Doctor, my girlfriend is white and I am Indian. What's the best way to embrace our cultures without pressure? I started by telling them it's a big part of my life. Help.
When you have two cultures, two religions, that is your relationship is a bridge between tribes, right? And I think it is the biggest gift to children that may come out of that relationship, to be able to give them all the teachings of all the various religions and cultures. I mean, it makes them better, more open-minded kids, right? So I mean, I think early on, it's totally okay to talk about why your religion or certain cultural practices are important to you. And then basically say, ask the question, how could it work together? I mean, you're not trying to convert somebody, are you? Then it becomes just a mess.
Here's a biggie.
Uh-huh.
So if my ex says they have fallen out of love with me, is it possible for them to fall back into love, or is the end the end?
Well, nobody knows the real answer there. If your ex says, I've fallen out of love with you, can they fall back in love? Well, first of all, you should believe what they say. People are clearly communicating, right? They say, I've fallen out of love with you. I think your question really is there anything I can say or do to get them to fall back in love with me? And the answer is no, right? You can't really control that. You've got to go on with your life. In fact, the most chance you would have that they might fall back in love with you is if you go get a higher status mate and they go, what happened, right? So, so this guy says, he loves to argue with me, Travis. He says, that's not true. Just because someone is into swing does not necessarily mean the seed theory. Some people are just sexually mature. I wouldn't use the word sexually mature. I would simply say more sexually experimental. But remember, in our evolutionary past, I'm talking about something highly unconscious and something highly animal, that polyamory was beneficial in seed spreading, but it was dangerous for raising kids because the same guy that wants to be polyamorous could come home to a mate who was bringing another man's genes in the household. So it's one of those conflicts that's constantly going. These aren't conscious processes. Go ahead.
Dr. Wendy, when is an estimate of a good time to introduce your partner to your family?
When is it okay to introduce your new partner to your family? Well, you want to start by talking to your partner about that, and you want to talk to your family about that. And really, it's going to be different with everybody. I mean, some families are very open and like, oh, bring your date over for brunch. It's going to be fine. We get together every Sunday. And others are like, don't bring us anybody unless you know they're the one. We do not want to meet this revolving door of dates. So have the conversation. Says, I've always had bad luck with women. Okay, I brought this up for a big reason. Relationships are not about luck. Relationships are about skill. And we get the love back that on some deep unconscious level, we actually feel we deserve, even if it involves pain, longing, and criticism. And so the work of finding a healthy relationship is always an inside job. It's always about learning how to love ourselves deeply, because once we do, we will have the self-confidence to say no to the people who are toxic and treating us bad. We won't be like, maybe I'll put up with it because maybe I'll need them to like me, right?
Doctor, if I get bald by 40, how do I ensure my wife doesn't leave?
Okay, if your relationship with your wife is based on your hair and you've been together a long time, that's a problem, okay? We don't actually, we don't, I mean, once you've been with somebody for a while, the visual thing kind of goes away. You know that, right? I mean, not so much for men. Men don't like it when their wives gain weight. They're like, I didn't sign up for that. But women are less, women care about emotional connection, and they care about how much finances a guy has, and they care about how much he contributes to the household. Honestly, that is so much more important with hair. And then he says, that's a joke. Not always. Roller Girl says swingers are addicted to sex. It's their recreation. They're not always, I mean, addiction is a strong word, right? It's a diagnosis. But, you know, I always say if men can get away with multiple partners, most of them probably will take it. And the culture right now is that women have less power in the sexual economy. Okay. I love this question. Is it true that if a man 25 or older shows red flags, you should just leave because his frontal lobe is fully developed and he isn't changing at that point, right? Well, if he shows red flags, you should leave just because he's not a good match for you. He's not reciprocating the care that you're giving. That's first thing. But second thing, it's got nothing to do with the prefrontal lobe being developed. People can change across a lifespan. People in their 70s can go to therapy and learn how to express their feelings and call adult children and apologize for things that went on, right? We can change across the lifespan. Is it possible to have your partner confront their truths, or is it up to them? Well, I do believe that as a best friend, whether it's just a best friend or whether you're in a love relationship, if you're really a good friend, you're going to be honest with them. Now, they'll deny it, right? But if they start hearing it from enough people, they'll start to understand it. Yeah, they need to change that thing. Thank you. Hi, Dr. Wendy. Relationships change. Who do you renew the fire with in a relationship between a husband and wife? Well, with each other. You have the conversation. You go to therapy if need be. You find ways to create novelty and excitement.
Is it better to develop a friendship before a relationship?
Well, research says yes. It is better to develop a friendship before a relationship. If you want a long-term relationship, we got to remember, some people are in the mating marketplace for short-term relationships, and that's always a problem because they're not the problem. The problem is people don't discuss this on first dates, but you really should. This is one of the things I love about dating apps, especially like Tinder. People just put it out there. They're like, I'm conscious non-monogamy, right? I'm polyamory. I'm committed. I'm looking for a long-term. I'm looking for a short-term. Just be honest what you're looking for. But if you are looking for a long-term relationship, the research shows that growing emotional intimacy first is better. Okay, I think we should probably wrap it up soon, right? Any more last-minute pressing questions before we get going? Oh, one from Sydney here I liked. Sydney, you got good questions. When is the best time to marry someone? You better be together for at least a calendar year, 12 moons, okay? So you see everything, the seasons of their personality and their life. And secondly, in my opinion, you better be over the age of 25. The research is very clear. When do I come to Ottawa to visit? Of course, the borders are closed. I haven't been there in a year and a half. So the research is clear that if you marry below the age of 23, you have the absolute highest divorce rate. So be a little older. Make sure you know somebody at least a year. That's what I would say. No, I don't. Feli Pai. I don't agree with that. Long-term relationship question. Is there hope with a moody person? What's causing their moods? Is it diet? Is it an imbalance in their neurochemistry? Are you pissing them off? Like, what's happening? You got to find out. You can't just say somebody's moody. You got to find out what's making them upset. Will I be here next Sunday, same time? Oh, this is very important. Next week, I will be on TikTok Live. So if you have not downloaded the TikTok app, and you don't have to follow anyone on TikTok but me, I'll be the only one you get, then we're going to do a special live stream. We're actually going to be in a studio. It's going to be very exciting. We'll have guests. It's a big deal. So please download the TikTok app, follow Dr. Wendy Walsh, and we have a very special show next Sunday. And then the following Sunday, I will be back on KFI AM 640. Thank you all for being here. It's always my pleasure. Send me your questions all week long because I do answer them on the air whenever I can. Thanks, Bailey Pie. Let's come on our TikTok. There's a party going on TikTok, you guys. You would not believe all the followers I have over there. Oh, good. Some of you do follow me already there. That's nice. Thank you so much for being here. Always a pleasure. Wave goodbye. Wave goodbye. Good to see you. Bye. Thanks for coming.